Hey yo, guys, check this out. I tattooed one of my balls. Check it out. Tattooed my ball.
This video is brought to you by CapBeast.com. Design your own custom snapbacks and hats. CapBeast.com. We are beast.
Hey, what's up guys? This is Nightwing2303 from WearTesters.com. Today we have the performance review on the Nike Zoom Venomenon 5. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright guys, so here we go. This is the traction pattern. So as you can see, it's pretty funky. It's got all kinds of lines all over the place. Does it tell a story? I don't know, and I don't really care. The only story I want to know is if it plays well. And he's having to perform excellent, even indoors, and this is supposed to be an outdoor shoe. Something that I do think is funny though is that there is no mention whatsoever whether or not these featured XDR rubber, and the rubber is pretty soft and pliable, so while they do grip really nicely outdoors as they did indoors, I don't think that they're going to last quite as long as maybe the pairs that are being released overseas in Asia, which do feature XDR. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be a good performing shoe outdoors. Will it last the longest? I don't know. Personally, I would just stick with these guys indoors because that's where they excelled. Now you guys can see that the cushion is bottom loaded and it features so as you guys So as you guys can see, we have Zoom Air. It's featured in the heel and the forefoot, and it is bottom loaded. Bottom loaded meaning that they were inserted into the bottom of the midsole instead of the top of the midsole. So what your foot is resting on underneath the insole is going to be the midsole itself instead of the cushion. Now it works well for what it is. It's not my favorite setup of all time. If there is bottom loaded Zoom, I like there to be something top loaded as well. That isn't the case here. I think that it would have been a lot better if the midsole itself would have been at least a cushioned midsole such as Cushlon or even Lunarlon, but instead we just have straight up Phylon here, so it's a little bit on the firm side when you are in motion. When you're standing still or just walking around, they feel good, but that's that stepping comfort, and that's provided by the fluffy insole that they got in there. So being bottom loaded isn't necessarily a bad thing. It basically comes down to personal preference, but there are some pros and cons. The pros are that the rubber. So with any setup, there's always going to be pros and cons. With bottom loaded Zoom, the pros are more responsiveness as far as reaction speed. What I mean by that is that you're not sinking into the cushion itself, so you are losing less time while in motion, allowing you to move technically faster. And we're talking by milliseconds here, so it's not going to be anything that you actually notice. The other pro is that it absorbs impact straight away, being that it is on the bottom. The con is, again, you don't feel it. That could be a con to some, it could be a pro to some. Some people don't like mushy cushion or springy cushion. I personally like a little bit of bounce back, which is why I like something to be underfoot if it is going to be bottom loaded like this. A prime example of that would be the Air Jordan 2010. Those had full length bottom loaded Zoom, but then they also had this targeted setup underneath your foot directly on the top of the midsole, so it was like almost being double stacked. So overall, the cushion is not anything to really gawk over. It's not great, it's not the worst in the world, and it's definitely better than last year's Venomenon 4, so you got to give it a plus for that. And it does definitely get the job done. It's just not a setup that I personally enjoy. Now the materials I think are phenomenal. I love the way that this is set up, and it's very similar to the HyperRev 2015 with its mesh top layer. It's like a screen mesh, and then the Kobe 8 with that engineered mesh underneath it. So it kind of blends the two models together and gives you this really cool upper that's really nice and soft. It's got no hot spots, no breaking time is required. Feels great on your foot. When you're laced up, you are pretty much good to go. If you wanted an up close look as far as what it looks like, you have the screen mesh right here. You have some fuse for some of that high wear areas. It's basically right on the eye stay area, as well as the toe rand where the toe drag is located. But then everything else is nice and airy and flexible. I absolutely love it. So the pros to this is that there is little to no breaking time whatsoever, no hot spots, all that kind of good stuff. The downside is durability. If you're looking for an ultra durable shoe, just stay away from mesh. It's that simple. Go with something that's plasticky like fuse, or you can go with a raw material like leather. Now these guys fit true to size for me personally, but they are slightly snug up at the front. So if you have a wide foot, I definitely recommend trying them on first. But for me, my regular size fit me absolutely perfectly. In terms of lockdown, the forefoot was actually really great. You have this dynamic fly wire, which I know that a lot of people like to harp on, saying that it doesn't do anything, which isn't necessarily true. It does have a function. It's just not always utilized properly. This is a proper setup right here where it's free and all that kind of stuff. It's by itself, and then this helps or works in tandem with the upper. When you have a stiff upper, there's really no need for fly wire because there's not really any give to the upper there. But when you have a softer upper like this, you want some additional reinforcement, which is what this is for, to keep your foot from sliding side to side and going over the footbed. So forefoot lockdown I thought was great. Midfoot lockdown is great as well. I love how everything is flapped and cut, so when you're moving, in motion, everything moves really freely and naturally. There's no binding of any materials whatsoever, no pinching, no hot spots like I said earlier. And so what you're getting is just a really nice fit that forms to your foot, moves freely with your foot, and it's just awesome. And then last but not least, we got heel lockdown. I actually thought this was a huge plus for this shoe, but I also thought there was a small drawback to the way that they constructed it as well. The plus is that the heel reinforcement is excellent. So this back piece here with all these little bony looking spikes made out of a nice hard plastic contains your foot from shifting side to side, which promotes ankle support or stability, whatever you want to call it. But that's exactly what it is. It's that heel lockdown and security, keeping your foot from sliding over the footbed, once again, much like the forefoot. The downside to this is that they went with a full-on counter like this, and this is that hard plastic. It meets the rubber right here, so if you do happen to heel strike, if you can hear that, that's kind of what you're getting on the court. So it's getting a clunky feel instead of a smooth transition. I think that they could have used a heel clip, something that was similar to say the Kobe 7 or Kobe 8, and that would have reinforced this area, keeping you on the footbed from shifting side to side, but it would have left all this area open so that the foam would have been able to compress upon heel impact. That's just what I would have done. Obviously, I'm not the designer of the shoe, so this is what we got. So that's how it performed. Slightly clunky, even though lockdown was a really good feature on the model. Now, in terms of support, it reminded me of a mixture between the Kobe 8 and the Kobe 9 EM. There's just enough support surrounding the shoe in key areas such as the forefoot as well as the heel and then the lateral outrigger, much like the flagship models have been for quite some time. And there is nothing excessive on these things, so it's not restricting or anything like that. Basically, we've gotten to the point to where the old flagship models are now the new takedown model standard, which is awesome because those flagship models are still some of the greatest of all time. And I'm speaking about the Kobe 8 and the Kobe 9. So when you're getting that type of support and performance in a takedown model that costs almost half of what the flagship this year does, I think that's phenomenal. Like I said earlier, the only thing about the support that I would change would be the heel counter right here, and basically I would just rather have had a clip instead of a full-on plastic cup, only because that transition does get a little clunky if you do happen to strike with your heel. But other than that, it's everything that you come to expect in a Kobe model, but they only cost 120 bucks. So overall, I actually really liked this model despite the bottom-loaded zoom and the slight clunkiness in the heel, and I actually like these things a lot more than the Kobe 10s. I enjoyed the materials way more than the Kobe 10s, and the traction, while not quite on the Kobe 10 level, was still really excellent on indoor courts, even when they weren't the most desirable of court conditions. You're also capable of using these guys indoors or outdoors. Just keep in mind that this will last slightly longer than the Kobe 10, but maybe not quite as long as it would have if they featured XDR. How long exactly? I don't know. There is no, length of use calculator that lets you know exactly when the day and time this guy is gonna give out on you. There's just no such thing. Basically, if you want a high-performing shoe at a reasonable price, this is gonna give that to you. Just make sure that you go and grab them, and then you have fun with them. So that'll pretty much take care of it. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all your support. Stay tuned for the performance scores, and if you are interested in any of the new WearTesters performance apparel, there will be a link in the description box below. So thank you guys again, and until next time guys, have a good one.